Hey everyone, welcome to another match of Temur Delver, or I should say Temur Delver. Today we're playing blue-green Infect. A lot of you don't know this, but before I was a Temur Delver fanatic, I was an Infect fanatic in Modern. So I know Infect decks pretty well, which comes in handy when playing against Infect decks. Our opening hand was pretty good. By the way, we don't have a turn 1 threat, but Temur kind of sealed the deal. And we were playing against a deck we didn't know about, so there was no big reason to be aggressive on mulligans right away. Of course, when I see a Breeding Pool and then an Inkmoth Nexus, I know exactly what's going to happen. Now, the good thing and the bad thing is that when I'm playing against an Infect deck, I know when I'm losing, because I know the deck. So, we are not going to care about our lives at all, our life total at all. And now we're going to get time walked. Alright, well, I guess it's okay that our opponent kind of wasted their Spell Pierce on a Manamorphose. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with it. Feel like we're going to see Inkmoth Nexus get activated here. No, we're going to see Noble Hierarch first. Alright. Now we're going to get pinged for 2. So already I'm not feeling very good. Uro is pretty much useless at the moment. So we draw more lands, which is really not what we want. Now, I could have kept Mana Leak up and just pass a turn, but we kind of have to move along here. So our Tarmogoyf, unfortunately, is only a 2-3 at the moment. Which means no ferocious activation. Oh boy, I'm losing my ability to speak here. There's not going to be no ferocious activation on Stubborn Denial. So, for example, we can't Stubborn Denial this at the moment, and I'm going to concede, because the game is over. Alright, that's game 1. Not too great, and I definitely blame me keeping a relatively weak hand for it. I don't think Surgical Extraction is really a good card here, but Reality Shift is, Blood Moon definitely is. Yeah, I took Surgical Extraction out. Okay, alright, let's reset. Okay, we weren't well equipped to handle Infect, and Infect can be explosive, so let's keep playing with a focus. Alright, so I added an Abrade there to just round out our removal. We have to mulligan. This hand is keepable. I mean, we really don't want to go down to 5. We draw a second Lightning Bolt, which is beautiful. Don't really need Stubborn Denial at the moment. We need land. Although with Lightning Bolt, we can probably survive a few turns with no land. We draw land anyway, which is great. Question is, do we activate right away and play our Tarmogoyf, or do we wait? I mean, right now our opponent does not have any Infect creatures, so this is the perfect time to actually play a threat. Instead, I'm going to do the smart thing, of course, and get rid of Noble Hierarch. If our opponent has a land and Noble Hierarch, then that means they probably kept a very low land count in their opening hand, potentially only 1 land. Don't forget Noble Hierarch also has Exalted, so they're going to be doing extra damage with their Infect creatures. Really not something you want. So Inkmoth comes down. And we don't draw another land. So we're going to play our Delver here and keep up our Lightning Bolt. It's essentially the best we can do right now. I'd be perfectly fine with Inkmoth being activated here, but if our opponent is smart... Okay, well now they have lands, so they have a backup they could counter potentially. But if our opponent is smart here, they will not attack unless they have a way to protect Inkmoth. Now you're going to see I'm not going to bolt Inkmoth right now. If our opponent decides to not boost Inkmoth, I'm going to let it ping us for 1. Because I really want to cast Lightning Bolt either main phase or end of turn, where there's a limited amount of things they can do. So you see, I'd rather them waste Blossoming Defense right now than during the combat step, and that's specifically why I didn't bolt Inkmoth Nexus. We draw a Braid, which means we also flip our Delver, which is great because now we could start applying some real pressure. And we are in no rush to play any more threats, so we just keep our mana open. So right now we are ahead. Our opponent is kind of flooding out for Infect. You don't really want that much land necessarily. So Might of Old Krosa is definitely going to get countered. You got no choice here. Just gotta hope that they don't have a counter for our counter. They do not. They got another pump though. Yeah, well, that's unfortunate. It's gonna have to go through. We are at 7 Infect, but that's okay. We're still kind of ahead. We are really hurting here because of our lands. So we're stuck on 2, which is killer. And now we're not going to attack him, because now we have to be a bit more defensive. Them swinging in with Inkmoth means that we're going to block it, which means they're going to have to waste a pump to kill our Delver, which probably means they won't do anything at all, which is okay, because we need to draw another land. We don't. And now the question is, do we risk it, Metamorphose, and hope we draw a land? Looks like I'm ready to risk it. All right. Stormwing Entity. It was a good risk. Worst case, we would have cast our Tarmogoyf and hoped. So, Metamorphose, we do not need another one. Actually, you know what? Metamorphose would actually be good because of the Prowess trigger. Blood Moon at this point, not gonna be a card we want. And yeah, it looks like here I'm just digging for lands. Now I can probably swing in with Delver, because now we have Stormwing Entity to kind of fend off Inkmoth. So this was overall a good play. Yeah, and Blood Moon, again, given the lands that we have and the fact that we only have 2, it's not a card I want to draw next turn. It would shut off our opponent, but not for long. Alright, Noble Horror comes down. Again, we're not seeing anything crazy here. Obviously, we're going to block Inkmoth with Stormwing Entity. It's going to become a 2-2, and we're going to block and see what happens. And they're going to have to pump it. So I find this to be a weird play by our opponent. Yep, not surprised that that happened. I guess that was just their way to get rid of our Stormwing Entity, and I suppose that's fine. Here again, another risk. Alright, well, we finally have lands. Yeah, we're going to put Breeding Pool on top. And we just have to, yeah, play it safe, not attack in. And see what our opponent does. They're cycling away, which means they're looking for answers, which is always good news for us. And Delver of Secrets is playing the good old D. Another cycling going through. I think we're going to see a Glistener Elf here. Yep. Next turn we get a third land, finally. Our opponent has drawn a bunch of lands, so we've kind of been lucky as well that they've been flooding a bit. Question is, do we play Tarmogoyf? We're going to Metamorphose first, which I think is smart. Alright, we draw another Tarmogoyf. Alright, well, that makes that a bit simpler. So again, we can't really attack in yet. We can Stubborn Denial, Echoing Truth, though. So just in time, Tarmogoyf comes down and kind of, takes care of that. Because, that would have essentially been game over for us. Our opponent is down to one card in hand, so this is going to be interesting. So I have 2 cards. Let's see what it is. Alright. Blighted Agent. That's also a clock. So we're probably going to have to target that next turn, because we can't block Blighted Agent. So yeah, it doesn't really matter how many creatures we have. Force of Negation's pretty good. Gonna have to take out Blighted Agent. Yep, and now we can Stubborn Denial, Dispel Pierce. There we go. Blighted Agent goes bye-bye. And again, we're still at a stalemate on the battlefield. So our opponent is in top deck mode, which is always a good thing for Infect. Well, I mean, it's a bad thing for the Infect pilot. It's a good thing for us. Pretty much have no choice here but to play Tarmogoyf. This way I can at least attack in and start putting some pressure on our opponent. There we go. So they have to do something now, because next turn we can deal some serious damage. So as you can see here, we managed to protract this match quite a bit. We were very short on lands, our opponent got very heavy on lands. So we both weren't lucky here. But for Infect, the long game is a bad game. Storming Entity is going to be kind of useless here. It's going to be Force of Negation fodder, essentially. I'm going to attack in again. We want 1 Tarmogoyf. Oh, 2. Alright, well. The 2 makes sense because our opponent has to block. Now, what I didn't really anticipate here is, yeah, they're just going to block with Noble Hierarch. And that's going to be a problem. Because now they can attack in with both. And I'm going to have to choose which one to block, and they can pump the one that isn't blocked. What they don't know is that I have Force of Negation, which means I can counter whatever pump spell they have in hand. So obviously I'm going to block Inkmoth. And they are going to, I assume, pump. No, they are not. Alright. They just wanted to attack in and see what we're going to do. I think they miscalculated there. Yeah, that was kind of stupid. Either way, we had them. Even if they had a pump spell, it would have been countered. So I think we did good there overall. Is there anything else we really want to bring in here? I mean, I would like to make room for that second Abrade. But I think the composition of our deck is just fine. This hand is risky. It's risky knowing the deck that we're playing, but it's going to be good enough. Odds are we will get a second land early. We have 2 Force of Negations as well, which are relevant, which means we're going to be able to stop 2 pump spells on our opponent's turn, which is very, very important. Our opponent, Infect does dry up relatively quickly. But I'm confident we'll get a second land soon. Like, not now, but soon. So we're going to attack in, can't do anything else, and we will wait. One of those Storming Entities is definitely going to be fed to Force of Negation. Blighted Agent, alright. Something we'll have to deal with if we get another land. It's very rare that I hope that we reveal a land. Lightning Bolt. Alright, well that's just as good because it's a 1 mana removal spell. Let's attack in. And now I'm probably going to hold Lightning Bolt. Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that I had 8 cards in hand, so I'm going to have to get rid of one now. Storming Entity is definitely going away. So now we wait. We wait for our opponent to ideally waste a pump spell, and then we take care of that creature. Again, I'm not going to cast Lightning Bolt yet. Worst case, they hit us for 1 Infect, and that's okay. There we go. So now we hit our Lightning Bolt, or cast our Lightning Bolt, I should say. Our opponent's going to try and do something to protect it, and we're going to force a negation it. And probably get rid of Mana Leak. Oh, sorry, yeah, the other Storming Entity. So, what we just did there is get rid of 2 creatures. 2 pump spells, essentially. And that's brutal for our opponent. Very, very brutal. We still haven't drawn a second land. So what I said at the beginning of this match, saying we're probably going to get a land soon, yeah, it hasn't happened yet. But we did have, a solid hand in terms of, being able to counter the pump spells that our opponent's going to be drawing or going to be casting. So Seer Visions has to reveal a land. I mean, okay, perfect. Yeah, Tarfire on top, Manamorphose on the bottom. Don't really need Manamorphose at the moment. Nothing I can do with that, so no point in wasting life. Although it should be noted that, when you're playing against Infect and you're not worried about your life, you just pay the 2 even if you're not going to use it. That will, play tricks of your opponent's mind. It's going to force them to do certain things or work around potential counter spells. So I should have just paid the 2. So our opponent's getting really cocky here, putting themselves in bolt range. So they're going to attack in. Yeah. Let's see what they got. Uh-huh. Yeah, I mean, we have our opponent here. There's no way they're going to win. I know they're heavily relying on their Inkamoth Nexus, but we have removal, so we're just going to attack in. And we are going to bolt that, or Tarfire that Inkmoth. They might have an answer for it. They do. Spell Pierce. Just in the nick of time. Alright. Well, that's fine. This does get rid of their Inkmoth Nexus. And we have a counter for whatever pump they're going to play. So again, I feel relatively confident. There's just no way they're going to be able to deal 9 Infect this turn. Again, you just need to know how Infect works, and you can usually work around their tricks. At this point, they're at 2 life. There's no way around it. So Might of Old Krosa. Decision is, do I let it go? Because it's not lethal yet. So I let it go. Our opponent thinks, okay, they're in the clear. Let's play another spell. So you gotta be very careful here. Because if you counter the first one and they have an answer for it and they pump it again, then you might have no answers for that second pump. So now they're going to do Blossoming Defense. Again, it's not lethal, so wait. Yep, and our opponent kills themselves. So that's one way to win against Infect. Listen, I just think that's hilarious, so I hope you laughed. I really hope you laughed there. I don't think our opponent remembered that they had played a Pain land. So, too bad for them. Either way, even if they didn't kill themselves there, I mean, it doesn't really matter what they were going to play. Infect doesn't play any spells that are counterproof or have protection from counters, or can't be countered, I should say. So, I mean, that pump would have been countered by Force of Negation, and they would have lost. So, either way, whether they killed themselves or not, it was game over. Although, you know, I'm sure that our opponent really, really hated what they just did, and I find that hilarious. So, Infect. Yeah, it's nice playing against an old addiction that I had, an old Infect addiction. I played blue-green, I played Bug. Yeah, I just really enjoyed Infect before I found Temur Delver, I should say. So I hope you enjoyed that match. I think Temur Delver in general, in all of its variants, plays really well against Infect, even budget Temur Delver, which you'll be seeing in a couple of weeks, by the way, does relatively well against Infect. Yeah, it's just we have a lot of the tools that we need to deal with them. Yeah, if you enjoyed the match, give it a thumbs up. If you enjoy my content in general, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on Twitter. All that stuff really helps me out a lot. A big thank you to my patrons as well. I just recently redid my Patreon. I revamped all the tiers. I think it's going to be really, really worthwhile for you to at least take a look at those tiers, see if it interests you. Essentially means you're going to win a giveaway every single year. Up to 12 mythics and rares. Emphasis on them not being bulk, and then let's say 25% of patrons in each tier will be selected to get an extra card that will have a high value, like $50 or more. So I think that's pretty cool. It's kind of like a giveaway I can do within patrons, and I can, also circumvent any giveaway laws this way as well, which is great. And I think it's going to be pretty worthwhile. Plus, you're supporting the channel. So check that out. There's a link in the description. Big thanks, and have a good one.